Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be taking a closer look at the endgame. As many of you know, the endgame is after my chess games are won or lost, so it's important to have a solid understanding of endgame techniques and strategies. To help illustrate this, I'm going to be analyzing 3 games that I recently played where the endgame was a crucial factor. We'll go over the decisions I made, what I did well, and what I could have done better. So grab a cup of coffee and let's dive in. So before I start, I want to say that all of these games are rapid games that I'm playing online on the chess, where I am trying to climb the board up to hopefully top 50. For now, we are at a rating of about 2400 and I want to start in the following position. So in this position, I was down a complete knight. Yes, I'm not joking. However, it is not the fact that I want to show you that I blundered a full piece. I want to showcase a couple interesting points that actually led me to win this game, despite all odds. So my opponent here, with black, played the move rook to e8, which is not inherently a bad move. However, it does allow something. Now, white can do multiple things here. White can decide to guard the pawn. White can decide to take on h7. Or white could even decide to do something else. What would you play here? Okay, now before I tell you what I played, I want you to think a little bit more thoroughly. What are the big weaknesses that my opponent has? Well, obviously they're a7, c7, and h7. Now, which of these 3 weaknesses are the most important? I don't think it's h7. Why? When I take on h7, I do get a passed h pawn. However, it is going to be very difficult to get this to the promotion square since black's king is so close. So I would rather want to win the pawn over here on a7. However, this is not really much of a good move. Instead, I played the move rook to c4. Now, obviously, you cannot take on e3 since you have a hanging knight, so you have to move the knight first. My opponent did not want to put the knight here, since then he would block his own rook, so he decided to go for knight d8, which is a completely fine move. So I took on c7, he took on e3, and I took on a7. So we got to this position right here. So instead of taking on h7, we would have taken on h3, something like king f2, rook c3, which is obviously threatening. I mean, this position is just a lot easier for him to play. We find a way to kind of get some annoying threats. Since now, I mean, I have 3 pawns here, which are 2 passed pawns, and they could be very annoying in the future. Now we see rook to e2, c4, and knight c6. I play rook a6, knight b4, rook takes d6, and rook takes a2. Rook takes a2 is a little inaccurate, however, it does not lose any huge advantage. So here, I continue logically with rook takes f6, we see rook to b2, rook f3, knight c2. However, what I want to show you here is that a couple of moves ago, right before rook c4, it was all very wide. However, just by playing a couple of moves that really went after his big weaknesses, he kind of got me into this position where, I mean, obviously I'm still completely losing. However, now there are all kinds of threats looming with the pawns. So he plays knight c2, I play c5, he plays knight d4. Now, what would you play here? Obviously, you would want to put your rook behind the pawn, right? And then just easily march it forward towards promotion. However, that's not it. There is just a simple fork. Always look for checks, right? So, instead, rook to d3 I played, and he decided to play knight takes b3, which is a huge blunder. Why? Well, you give white too much time, and I continue with the move c6. Instead, he should have just played knight e6, trying to be a little bit more preservative. However, in the long term, it would just be better. Sometimes you gotta move a little backwards to go forward. So, knight takes b3, c6, and he immediately blundered again with knight c1, thinking, you have to move your rook. However, I don't have to move my rook, just c7, rook c2, and we pick up the rook. So this position is completely winning. However, I do think a lot of you might have some trouble with this. So let me show you what I like to do. First, I like to focus on my king side. So I just make sure that I develop my pawns, get my king into a good position, and then we try to figure out, okay, well, how can I attack his weaknesses with the rook? And when the time is ripe, you sacrifice the rook for the knight to get a winning pawn endgame. Now, how do I know this is winning? He does not have the option to go up to get opposition, since I just push my pawns, and he has to leave his pawn, and then we're just completely winning, right? So what to take away from this game is that you really need to figure out what is his most important weaknesses in the long term, not just the short term, in the long term, and try to target those. Now, in the second game, I made a big blunder. Just a very simple blunder. I want to start in this position right here. So I was up a piece, and it is very straightforward here, right? You just make sure you take the pawns. You just don't really get that move, but whatever. Bishop e2, and you just bring your king. However, you don't just bring your king. Why is the move king c3 a blunder here? Which is what I played. Why is this a big blunder? This is a big blunder because the h-file promotion square is dark and I have a light square bishop. Huh? What do you mean? Well, by playing king c3, I allow g6, and even if I would take, then obviously he would just play h5 the next move, and we are forced to trade it away into an h-pawn. So instead, we might as well just move the king and take it this way. You do end up winning the pawn, however, you can never push the king away from the corner. If this were a dark square bishop, I would just be able to check him here. He would move the king, I would move my king, and then he's away from the corner, and I could just promote my pawn. So because this is a light square bishop, this is a draw. So instead of king c3, what should you play? You should play bishop to d3, obviously. You want to stop him from trading your pawns. Now, this is still completely winning, since what you can do is you can just park your bishop here, bring your king all the way to win this pawn, force him away, win the other pawn, and now you have two pawns. You can just promote those. So remember just the bishop king endgame and trying to always preserve as many pawns as possible, so the chances of you blundering something like this will be very slim. The third game was very complicated. I mean, he sacked an exchange and I sacked it back in order to get to this position where the material was equal. However, I am winning because of my superior pawn on e5, my superior rook that is a lot more active, my king, and my knight. So he played rook e8. The only logical mover is obviously rook to f5. You gotta defend your important assets. You cannot play d6, as I know the knight's guarding it, however just bishop takes d4. So defend your own important assets and just try to slowly improve it. So e6 is a little inaccurate, however it's still completely fine. Play rook e5, you have king c7, knight f5, bishop d6, rook f2, rook e. Now, you can play rook e1 here, and rook e1 is completely winning. However, what I'm trying to stress about this game here is that you want to play slow and sure improving moves. You don't have to play the perfect move that is the quickest every time. That might lead to complications. Try to keep it simple. So rook e1, you can give it up and go here, and then, oh wait, you just blundered it. You see, it's very hard or very easy to get yourself into some kind of trouble. So try to just defend everything and just slowly but surely pick up stuff and just win the game. Now he didn't need to obviously move his rook. But instead of that, like let's say when here, I mean, we could have just moved the king up. Let's say just the same, defend this pawn. Well, let me just pick up the pawn. And I mean, from here, it's pretty straightforward, right? Just push the pawn, move your knight, and maybe go look here. It's all very easy. But what I'm trying to say is that I see a lot of people giving away pawns because they think their own is way stronger. Now, unless you have a serious, very strong idea for which you should give away pawns or other type of material, do it. But if you don't have it, and especially if you're playing Blitz or Rapid, just keep it simple. There's no need to overcomplicate it, which will just make it harder for you and for your opponent, obviously. However, in most cases, that's just going to result in blunders from your end. So, to summarize the 3 tips that I'm trying to give from this, from these 3 games, is focus on your opponent's weaknesses in the long term, not just the short term. Know your bishop endgame. Just try to keep as much pawns on the board and preserve your own positional integrity while trying to push your advantage. That is all for today. I hope this helps a little bit in your chess journey. And if you have any questions or any other topics that you want me to cover, please put them in the description. I would appreciate it if you subscribe. That's all. See you later.